Log on to the KBC website. Sports, money, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
The Amazons. Woman is not your mother.
Stop lying to us, Dad. We don't believe you.
We all just want to know the truth, Dad.
It's wrong.
It's gone, and it's probably at his office.
No.
You need to find a way to get it back from him. I hope you brought that seating document that my son signed, as I asked of you. Do you have it? I am the lady of this house.
No, forgive me. You were. Not anymore.
No, don't touch me.
What's wrong, Mom? Calm down.
My baby, give it back.
Since ancient times, there's never been an emperor who has done that. But if I don't kill her, how could I face Yu Zhen again?
How about we release Chu Qizhen and his men?
You crazy? Look, if we do that, the troops won't come after us. I'm afraid. We're depending on you. You tried to kill Yu Zhen! She's the woman I love the most! You wanted me to marry her, only to help her realize her ambitions.
Your Majesty!
Your Majesty!
Your Majesty! Your Majesty!
This is the ransom the Empress paid in return for His Majesty.
Is it?
Go and get Beats Hall and put her to death.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back. Thank you for still keeping us company this far. We appreciate. In case you are just joining us, Karibu Tena Sana. This is Good Morning Kenya and I am Jane Wamboy. You are right in time for our family check conversation for today. And today we'll be touching on a sensitive matter that, is very individual, but we are having this discussion for the purposes of informing both you and I. And to help us with this conversation today, we have with us Zipporah Wanyeki, who is a counselor and also a trainer at Baton of Hope. Good morning, Zipporah.
Good morning, Jane. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yes.
So today we are talking about dealing with loss, understanding grief and the grieving process, what you should expect, or, just trying to make sense of your journey if you have been there, because, we are very social beings and at one point or the other, we have suffered a loss. And for some, it may have hit us harder than others. But when you are in that space and dealing with loss, what do you need to know in order to help you cope better and go through it easy, and also demystify some of the myths and misconceptions that surround grief? Now, we welcome you to share with us any questions. If you have comments or you're just seeking clarifications, our doors are wide open. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Now, let's just start with the word grief in itself and grieving. What does grief mean? When we talk about I'm grieving or I'm going through this particular space that I refer to grief, from a psychological point of standing, what do we refer?
Okay, thank you so much, Jane.
Karibu sana.
When we talk about grief, I want to first of all demystify what people have all along thought about. Grief is dealing with loss. You've lost something. I know if today I ask you, Jane, have you ever lost something? Have you suffered loss? You might tell me no, because in the recent past, maybe I have not dealt with loss. I have not lost a loved one. But can I surprise you that when you're talking about loss, think about even loss of status. We are talking about COVID-19 and how it has affected people negatively.
Yes.
So someone was working, someone had a business, but all of a sudden it came to a sudden close. So they have lost. They're dealing with loss. Maybe someone was working. This is Nairobi. The rate of crime is very high. You've lost your wallet. You're dealing with loss. So I want you to understand that when you're talking about loss, let it not be just the loss of a loved one. That is one form of grief. We can also be talking about other losses, loss of job, for example. With this pandemic, people have lost jobs. They are dealing with a certain form of loss. So when we talk about loss, maybe it is loss of something, loss of someone, something dear to you. And maybe how you deal with loss, we shall come to that, depends because of maybe your personality, among so many other
various factors.
Yes. So loss may not necessarily be just because of a person, because I understand we are dealing with a pandemic. And Jane, do you know we are not mourning our loved ones? The African us, we're supposed to mourn. Mtu amekufa, tunafanya matanga na nini. But today, if you look at the cases that are happening, for example, this person dies, is supposed to be buried within 72 hours.
Yes.
You cannot even mourn. Before you are done with this one, another one has died. WhatsApp group after WhatsApp group, you are added. So people are not mourning. What will that lead us to? If that is not well monitored, if loss is not well monitored, it will lead to something else. We talk about depression.
Okay.
In the recent past, we were talking about, the other day we talked about mental health. Yeah, mental health day. We were talking about 3 out of every 10 patients who are visiting the hospital. This is according to the World Health Organization. 3 out of the 10 people visiting the hospitals, they're dealing with depression or a mental illness case.
Yeah.
So you can see the cases are very high. So how you handle loss will determine whether we shall come to a closure or we shall move to the next step where you're depressed.
Now, do you think for most of us, as you have rightfully put it, we categorize losing someone as the only form of grief that we can identify? I am grieving. But looking at these other situations that you have, mentioned, losing a job, even moving a house that you grew up in, something that has you have an emotional attachment to. Do you think the fact that we do not understand that these are also losses that could trigger grief could be one of the problems as to why we've been seeing statistics indicate that over 70% of Kenyans are angry?
Yeah, sure. We're living in an angry society.
Yeah.
You step on me and before you apologize, I've slapped you.
The other day, somebody was stabbed because of 50 bob.
Imagine, we are living in a society where people are highly irritable. People are angry because maybe life has pushed them towards the end. They're very irritable. So when we talk about a loss, I want you to know that it could be one of the leading cases. We are talking about suicide as number 3 killer in the whole world. So that's way too high. So when we talk about loss, this is the one that is bringing up all these other things, because behind everything there is a reason. There is an underlying reason. So if we do not monitor you the way you deal with your loss, we shall be dealing with a greater thing altogether.
But it's quite interesting because most of the times we're even going through something as like a breakup. We talk about life changes, and actually it could be grieving that we are undergoing as an individual. All right. Now, looking at grief and grieving in itself, are there different types that have been known to present themselves, depending on the situation or the trigger?
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
When we talk about grief, for example, let us maybe try and look at it in the sense of losing a loved one, for example.
Yes.
When someone gets the news of a loved one, when someone breaks the news, and for the purposes of this conversation, maybe we need to tell you that when you go to the doctors and the medics, how they break those news is not very pleasant. We will not use these words that you may want. Oh, our friend has gone to be with the Lord. Oh, she has rested. We use the exact word. She is dead. Your baby is dead. As harsh as it may sound, why are we using those words? So that it sinks in you, into you. And actually, when we are talking about the burial process, I kept on wondering sometime, why do they insist that the family will have to go there, present themselves, be the ones to observe the coffin and the dead person,
Open
and they are
casket.
so traumatized. I was asking, why take them through all this? But you come to realize it will help later in what we call closure. For every stage of grieving, there's this person called Kubler-Ross, a psychologist.
Yes.
Kubler-Ross talked about the stages of grief. And he says that one of the stages of grief is, number one, you get into anger. You first of before you go to anger, you first of all come to denial. We tell you someone is dead. You say no. Si tulikuwa naye jana.
Oh wow.
Sini aliniwekea chakula jana. This can't happen. This person is not dead because we even talked this morning. So you get into denial. After you get to denial, sooner or later you realize things are not changing. You now become very angry. You're very angry. You're angry at everyone. You're angry at the doctors who did not save the life of this loved one. You're angry at yourself for not being in hospital on time to save this person. You are angry at the nurses who gave medication a little bit too late. I mean, you're angry at the ambulance that could not have been driven faster than you expected. You are angry. After you overcome now this stage of anger, you start what we call bargaining. By bargaining, this is when you hear people promise God all manner of promises. Oh dear Lord, if you bring my Kamau back to life, I will serve you forever. So this person is bargaining. If this comes, if only this happens, I will do this. If only this happens, maybe for example, if it's a child.
Yes.
The child, how they perceive this loss, they feel like maybe I'm the reason why mommy died. Maybe if I were only an obedient child, mommy would not have died. And so while they are doing their bargaining, they'll keep on saying, God, if you bring back mommy to life, I will be a very obedient child.
Yeah.
They're just bargaining. And each and every one of us have bargained at a certain point in life.
Trust me.
You've bargained, Jane. If God, you do this, I'll do this for you. I'll live for you. I'll serve you forever. After you're done with bargaining, you realize the dead is not coming back to life anyway. And so you go to the next stage. So we've talked about denial. We've come to anger, we've come to bargaining, and then we come to depression. It's a stage. When you're depressed, this is when you are numb. You are insensitive to people's feeling. We will come and tell you, and I want to caution Kenyans, when you are dealing with someone who has lost a loved one, avoid these phrases like, oh, I understand. You don't understand. What do you understand? You don't understand my pain. You can only imagine my pain, by the way. You cannot understand what I'm going through.
This is why they say grieve and grieving is very individual.
It's very individual. There are several factors that will come and talk about them.
Yes.
Why people will grieve the way they grieve, by the way. Number one, relationship with the dead. What was the relationship between this person who died and this person who is mourning? Was it a parent? Was it a sibling? Was it a spouse? Was it a very distant cousin? You see, so depending on how close you are, the intensity of your grief becomes more.
I think we'll be coming to that whole, because I think it's a whole other segment when it comes to understanding how grief presents itself.
Sure.
But let's come back to the stages. We were now at depression.
You are depressed.
Yes.
So you have been unable to move on with life. There's no amount of comforting that can make you feel happy. You see people coming to your home and the committees are being formed. They are formed to come and bury your loved one. You hate everyone. You don't want to hear the word sorry. You don't want to hear anything. You are cold, numb, and insensitive. You're very you may not even want to hear about God. You feel offended. You're dealing with your own issue. We say you are in your own world, somewhere alone.
Yeah.
After you undergo depression, later if you get good help, we shall be coming to that, enough emotional assistance, you come to acceptance.
And that is considered the final stage?
Oh, not necessarily.
Okay.
If you accept, you'll move on. For example, take an example of a lady.
Yes.
Whose husband has died. The husband was running an empire, a business, a number of them. So this lady, if she is able to overcome depression and she gets to acceptance, she will fit in the husband's shoes. So you will go and start now working in the husband's business. You will take over. If he was the MD, you will take over as the next MD. If he was a pastor, you now have no other choice but to fit in as a pastor. So depending on how well you've been helped to cope with that loss, you will be able to move on. But if you are not well helped, there are people who undergo what you call prolonged grief.
Yeah.
It has gone past the normal time we would expect you to be grieving. So this person will slip back to depression. So these are the people I've ever heard of a case where,
and that's why many people get stuck.
Oh yes. You hear this person has refused to accept, quote unquote, refused. For example, you've heard of these people who has lost the husband, and every morning the lady wakes up, gets a karai, puts water and takes it to the bathroom, polishes the shoes and put them there, irons the suit and place it there, and then it hits her, oh my God, my husband died, I have nothing to do. She cries herself out the whole day. She refuses to eat. Her life refused to move on. So these are the kind of people we refer to, people we call grief therapists. Are you aware, Jane, there's a grief therapist? Yeah, if you're mourning and we are not able to deal with your mourning the normal way, through maybe a counselor, we refer you to a grief therapist. So that one will be able to work with you closely. And I just want to caution people, don't ask people, kwa nini nawe huendelei? Si alisha kufa. You may never understand what they are going through. You can only help.
Yes, and I actually want to come there, because I came across a number of, misconceptions and misunderstandings that revolve around grief. And number one, I want us to start with, just what you're saying. Looking at the grieving period, there are those that say, it should take you at least, at most a year to grieve as someone that you have lost or something that you have lost. Why is this misguided?
I will start by saying that number one, we do not have a specific amount of time that we allocate you for grieving. Reasons, our personalities are different. How you handle grief may be very different from how I handle things.
Absolutely.
Immediately you are faced with something, there are two options. What we call fight or flight response,
or freeze.
Yes. Yeah. So people will deal with issues different. There's someone who, when they're very scared, will just stand still. The others will run away. Others will scream. Others will stand. So people have different ways of reacting. If we shout here, fire, you will see there's someone who will stand still, lack the energy even to do anything.
Freeze.
Another person will be braking as you're braking, as you're running the other side. So we want to say that how people deal with loss is very different. Number one, I said, depending on the position, the relationship. This person who has died, how was your relationship? Was it your dear loved mother? Was it your father? Was it or was it someone who was very, very distant? That is number one. Number two, why we will not judge you is based on, for example, the cause of death. There are people, we say that akipumzika tunasema, hey, okay, finally she has rested. Finally let her rest. There are people like we have already agreed, let them rest.
Yeah.
Why? Maybe they have really suffered with a certain chronic illness, for example. So we just look at them and say, hey, finally she has found rest. She was really suffering while she was living.
Yeah.
So while we are mourning this person, it's like we are celebrating her life and saying, hey, ni kama pumziko kwetu. This person has finally rested. But what about this person who has just graduated from the university with her master degree or her first maybe undergraduate degree, and the parents were hopeful that this is now the only hope in this family? As she's crossing the road, she's hit sudden death. How do you break such news? People will mourn and mourn and mourn, and they refuse to be comforted, because it hits them. It was sudden. What about this child who was the only child? We witnessed the other time a certain case, a mother loses 2 sons, the only sons.
Imagine.
It's so sad because now this person start asking ourselves, will I now go back to the drawing board and get more children? How do I even deal with this? Maybe my years are past the age of getting children. I mean, there's a lot of confusion. So this person may mourn for longer.
This is why it goes back to what you said. Grieving is very individual.
Very individual.
Very individual.
Very.
We cannot have a blanket
no.
cover to say like these are the boundaries of how grieving is supposed to happen.
Sure, yeah.
And that brings me to the aspect of now crying, because this is also another area that I find people to be a bit misguided, because some say if you don't cry or if you cry just a little, then you don't really feel the loss, you're not grieving. Crying and grieving versus not crying and still being part of the grieving process. Make us understand that.
I'll start by saying this. There are things something we call catharsis. These are aspects that you can use to deal with your own loss, stress, and all those related things. And there are many of them. When we were dealing with the mentor show, we were able to teach people many of those things that you can do when you're stressed up. And when you're talking about dealing with loss, crying is very important. Why cry? You will cry because as you're crying, those tears, as they are coming out, they are relieving some inner stress, some inner losses, some inner fears that you have within you. It is unfortunate that our culture has taught people that men don't cry. That's what we've been brought up knowing. Even your old son, you keep on telling them, wewe wanaume huwa wali. So you're supposed to cry. If the situation demands that you cry, go ahead and cry. It's a healing process, by the way. It's a healing process. Among so many other things that we come and look at, don't deny yourself time to cry. Because if you don't deal with it now, you will deal with it later, even after the barrier has happened. So it is very important that you cry while people are mourning and everything. Express your grief the best way you are able to. And that is why we always say, when you go and find someone crying, don't comfort them by telling them stop crying. Ati wewe wacha kulia. You know we are tuko mbele ya watu. No. Let them cry. They are only mourning their own way. And different people, different cultures, they mourn different ways. Yeah. So there are those people who will mourn by holding matanga, the disco matanga, and you know those sherehes. And it is their culture and it is allowed. That is how they celebrate the death. Another one will chinja a whole cow. It is also allowed. Others will shave their hair. It's a form of mourning. Others will, whatever it is that they do, whatever it is that you do in your culture, do it because it is a form of healing process.
What about those who believe that if you ignore it, it will go away faster?
Unfortunately,
bury it, keep yourself distracted, do this, do that, ignore it, it will go away faster, the pain will dissipate faster.
I'll say this. What happens is that our brain, the way our brain is made, those memories that you don't want to deal with, we'll always push them back to our subconscious mind. But that does not mean that they are not there. They are there. If we dig back into your memory, we can hear that nursery rhyme you used to sing, Nasikia sauti, isn't it? And you can sing it comfortably. It's not here in the working mind now, but we can retrieve it. So we do not want to tell you that don't deal with stress or don't deal with mourning, that you push those things at the back of your mind. They will come back haunting you. So deal with it, heal. Okay, of course we say time is the master healer. In as much as we take you through counseling and everything, we give you time to heal. But do not say that now I will pile it. One time, when you pile things for so long, they erupt. One day they erupt. And you will lose yourself. And these are the mental cases that we are dealing with. Someone who has been strong for so long. You've dealt with things for so long. Your system isn't meant that way. As our system isn't meant to deal with. There's good stress and bad stress. The good stress, we call it the eustress. The bad stress is the one that people are now going for counseling. So we are not meant to deal with this serious stress for long. They develop to something else, into depression. And can I surprise you, Jane?
Yes.
I was looking at statistics and I was wondering, why are we having serious cases of chronic illnesses that we are known to come later in life, kidney failure, I don't know, blood pressure, diabetes, to 31-year-old. Why? Because those diseases, we knew they were for people who are advanced in age, 60, 70 with age, isn't it?
Yeah.
But today, we are having them, even you hear 25-year-old, even a 13-year-old, you hear they're diabetic. We do not want to rule out the medical aspect. There is the medical aspect that we can attribute to that.
Genetics,
but we can also now come and look at it and look at how the society is today. How are we dealing with our stress? For example, so you've been stressed up in marriage, you've been stressed up in education, in what you've not dealt with it. What does it do? It comes out as a certain disease. All of a sudden, you are dealing with blood pressure at the age of 30.
Imagine.
It was not there during those people. Not that they didn't have stress, but at least I think they had their own way. I think their level of stress was not like the one
as
we have today.
Now.
Today you have to deal with almost everything, from the makangas, from the drivers, from your workplace, from the house help at home. I don't know. You have a lot to deal with anyway. So those diseases were not presenting themselves that early. So statistically, we can almost conclude lifestyle and how we are dealing with our issues is bringing them closer.
You know, here in studio, we casually say with my fellow colleagues, Hatutaki, lifestyle diseases. Refuse them by all means. Control what you can, and what you can't, wachia Mungu.
Thank you.
Now, this brings me to something else that I find is also a bit misunderstood, and this is the part looking at acceptance.
Yes.
Does acceptance mean forgetting your loss or learning to live with it?
Thank you. Unfortunately, it is not refusing to deal with it. Acceptance is not even forgetting your loss.
And allow me to just interject right there. I'm asking this on the background because you see, when somebody, let's say, has lost a loved one, and people see them, you know, going about their life after a month or two, going out, enjoying a drink, a meal, socializing with people, and they say, we are shasahau. Looking at that part of acceptance and loss in itself, that relationship, does accepting mean forgetting?
Not really.
Yeah.
It's not forgetting. When you accept, it is when you agree. There is this person called Wolof. He talked about the 3 stages. Number 1 is accept. When you're dealing with loss, accept. After you accept, you adjust. And then you advance. So this person...
adjust, advance.
Yes, the 3 is accept, adjust, and then advance. So when you're talking about accepting, it is where you realize that now the person who has gone is not coming back. So reality has to sink inside you. These are children, and life is supposed to move on. So what do? I have to come in and put on the shoes of the person who is gone and continue with life. You will never forget. There's nothing like you'll forget. But what happens, the memories will go on fading and fading, and the pain will go on, lessening, and finally you will move on, and life has to continue, by the way. Every day people are dying, and every day new people are being born. So life will move on. So we cannot say that you've forgotten. What you have done, you have adjusted and agreed to move on, because you have to move on anyway. Yes.
So this even goes out to the rest of the population. When you're dealing with someone who has lost someone or something, just because you see them moving on after a time frame that you may consider short, does not mean that they have forgotten what they have lost or who they have lost. Now let's come back to what you need to look out for to know if you're grieving or going through the grieving process. And remember, when you talk about loss, this is anything from losing a loved one to losing a job to, a breakup, being stressed over, moving houses, anything like that.
Yes.
So what are those things that, you as a counselor point to grieving?
Yes.
The grieving process. What do we need to look out for to even understand the journey ourselves?
Okay. Let me start by saying that it's a process, as I had said earlier, the stages we've looked at. So when someone is grieving...
Signs and symptoms.
Yes, we can tell that this is the normal grief, but now this one is prolonged one. For example, when this person... The first things that you feel is that numbness. You're insensitive. You feel you're not in the mood of talking to people. You even start dissociating yourself with people. You want to be alone. People are coming to tell you, oh, we understand, sorry. It's okay. You know, when people tell you it's okay, it's not okay.
It's never okay.
It's never okay.
And it cannot be okay.
The church has taught us to say it is well.
Yes.
There's even a song that says it is well, but
with my soul,
it is not well. Sometimes it's good to know when it is well and when it is not well. So this person, number one, feel empty from inside,
and these are the emotional symptoms and signs that we need to understand.
Nothing excites this person. Nothing. You bring them their favorite food, they don't. Take them to their favorite show, they don't. Anything that used to excite them before the loss is no longer exciting them.
Okay.
So this person is dealing with a loss already.
Okay.
Another thing that we can look at when we talk about this person has intense sorrow. You're just sorrowful. You are quiet, reserved, you cry, you mourn, you do all those things, and this is the time when you need a lot of emotional help. And that is why we advise people, one of the things that we shall look at when you're dealing with loss, how to overcome emotional support is very important. Let you have emotional support, people who understand you, people who are not there to judge you, people who are not there to take advantage of you. Because again, Jane, we've heard of these people. A lady has lost the husband, another man comes in to offer a shoulder to lean on, and
understanding that this woman might be emotionally vulnerable.
Yes, and you know,
or man for that matter.
Emotional breakdown is real. So as this lady is dealing with it, this man comes to offer emotional help. What does he do? He becomes the next man of the house, and it is hit and run. So you wonder, was this lady expectant before the death, or what happened? Someone came and did this thing and left. So it's good to get good emotional help. It helps, because these are times when you break down anytime, anyhowly, with no proper order. Except that today we are finding people who are very, I don't know which word to tell them. You've seen this digital generation whereby people are not mourning, they carry some handkerchief and they're like, Mom, you've died. We are so sorry. Me, I don't understand that mourning. Leah.
Jiwa
Chilie. Please don't. You are afraid your makeups will come out. Why now? You're talking about your dead mother here, your dead child or what? We are so sorry. They come with the makeups and some. Okay, I have nothing against them. But if it comes to mourning, mourn your own way. We are not there to judge you. Yeah. So one of the things that you will notice is that there are intense sorrow. There's intense sorrow. These people feel numb. They feel very sad. They feel like nothing can really help. Another thing is inability to focus. You cannot focus on anything. If people are to bring you a check, you can even sign even without reading what this was. This person is dealing with a lot, and that is why we say even in your workplace, people are given time to mourn. Yeah, there's that bereavement leave that you're given. You go and mourn, and then you can come back, because you cannot deliver. You cannot focus. You cannot do it. You cannot be productive in that state. So these are some of the things that you look for this person. Another thing is this person having suicidal thoughts? Because that is also another thing. When you have dealt with so much, you become depressed. When you become depressed, there are many things that can come to you. And one of them is thinking of taking away your life. You think, this is my mother. She was my only source of hope. She was the one looking at the family. Now we are left. Where am I left? What do? Let me kill myself. So if there are no people to monitor your life as at that time, we shall bury two people within that family. You plus the other person who died. So these are some of the things to look at. There are people who even have had on the material day of burial tried jumping inside also. They felt like, if this one has died, bury me also.
Okay. Now, due to the constraint of time, we have literally about 3 minutes left to go.
Yes,
you know, what would be some coping mechanisms that you would advise for someone who's grieving, going through the grieving process, to take on that are healthier and are not self-destructive? Because most of the time, we tend to gravitate towards self-destructing ways of coping.
Thank you. Number one, Jane, and the one that I would advise people as number one, it is share.
Speak it out.
Speak out. Speak to people. The more you speak to people, the more you realize, I'm dealing with a lesser issue than this one. I'm crying because I lost my grandmother. This one has lost the child. as you talk, as you share out, you listen, you reduce the pain.
Okay.
And in no time, you able to appreciate actually what you have as compared to other. For every bad story you have, there is a worse story. You're aware of that, Jane?
That is true.
For every bad story, if you come and tell us that you are raped, for example, and God forbid, there is a bad story. Another one was raped and was infected with HIV. Another one was raped and is dealing with another form of pregnancy who we do not even know the father or something like that. So there's always our story.
Yeah.
So your story you hear and you realize you've never been to a hospital where you realize that you're sick, but this one is more sick. Right? So there's our story. So number one, share. Number two thing that we can help you is be part of a group. Be part of a group. Agree to mourn, but mourn with people who are like-minded. I like Kenya today because I always hear there is organizations, our journey for the orphans, for what. So if you are part of a larger group of people who are like-minded, you realize as they share their story, you realize mine is not bad.
Easier.
Yes, mine is also easier. At least it's part of your healing. Other than that, we can also help you to do what we call, keep a journal. Write. It is very healthy, by the way. The emotions that come to your mind, write them down. Write them down. I miss, even remind this dead one, today is our birthday, today is our anniversary, we were supposed to do this and this. Write it. As you're writing, you are emptying out your emotions. What would you want this person to see in you? When I'm doing grief counseling to my clients, I ask them, your mother is in heaven. Yes. Do you think she's seeing a good version of you? Do you think the way you're living your life, your mother would be happy to see you mourning the way you're mourning? Because you have refused to eat. Do you think she is happy wherever she is? So let you imagine if these people, because we imagine they're in the air and they are watching us, if they are watching you, are they happy with how you're moving on with your life? Are they also happy that you have refused to move on with your life?
Yes.
So that is part of it, that you write down your emotions and your everything. We can also tell them to keep a record of photos, admire them. As you take this photo and look at him or her, you get good memories of things you did together. With time, you will come to know that you've moved on and the pain is no more. Be a prayerful person. If you're a religious person, join a church, be part of a church. And I'll just say,
yes,
if too much is too much, go to a therapist. Be helped. Yeah, don't just deal with it alone. Be helped.
Seek help when you feel you are at that point.
Sure.
All right. Now, due to the constraint of time, we're going to have to pause at that particular point. But remember, grieving, once again, is a very individual process. We are only recommending from, of course, a professional counselor what could help that is not self-destructive to help when it comes to this journey. Remember, your way of grieving does not have to be the same of like my way of grieving. Sure. Do what is best for you. Seek help when you feel you need that help. We have been speaking with Zipporah Wanyeki. She is a counselor as well as a trainer at Baton of Hope. Thank you so much once again for making time and sharing with us from your pot of knowledge. We do appreciate.
We appreciate too.
We look forward to more conversation.
True.
All right.
Yes.
Now, on behalf of the crew, my name is Jane Mamboy. We want to wish you a lovely day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
My soul up on this beat, put my life on the edge. So take this knowledge that I spit and keep it right in your head.
I am having a multi-talented artist.
You're one of a kind, one hard to find. What you never know, you always blow my mind.
Finally umenita kwa hii show.
Finally you're on this show.
Defenders Coalition event was held at the Allianz Francaise, Nairobi.